Here we are again, folks. Welcome to our YouTube channel. If you like what you hear, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment. We're always glad to be here to help each and every individual become the best that they can, not by gathering more thoughts and more information. No, but by learning to get rid of all of the false, twisted, warped information that we have received living in a society where profit is more important than people, where the machine and its function outweighs the people who are forced to be in that machine as various components. And that is why we do this channel. That's why we are here, to speak the truth and to bring people into a relationship with reality. If you look on these channels, you will find many, many teachings and spiritual teachers, and I think that's a great thing. It gives you an idea about a reality and a reality beyond what we see and experience every day. The problem is, however, that some of it is just going halfway, part of the way, going halfway up the hill, but never making it to the top. I've seen statements like, there is no reality. This is a half-truth. If you believe there is no reality, you will be lost. First of all, the fact that we are here and you're listening to the words that say there is no reality proves that there is a reality. We wouldn't be here to listen to that if there was no reality. The statement is that reality that we have is not the way we perceive it. A deeper way of understanding it is if you look at the concept of Maya. Many people say that Maya is illusion and it's the world of illusion, and they say it doesn't exist. That's not what the illusion is. The illusion is that Maya is all that there is. When one realizes there is Maya and there's much more, one is free from Maya, you see. Can you see the difference, the slight difference between the wording and the sentences when we talk about Maya or if we're existing or not? That makes all of the difference. One leads us into a trap again, the trap of dualism, of either or, up, down, right or left, and keeps us trapped in this reality that is denying. Because you see, this reality is one that is built on the dualistic model of understanding the world, the one from which our scientific theory comes out of and it reinforces every day, and most of our religions eventually move towards the same ideology, where everything is measured as good or bad, up or down, black or white, when in truth, things aren't that clear. They aren't that distinct. Things exist on a spectrum sometimes. In fact, almost everything in the universe exists on a spectrum. There is no up, no down, no right, no left, if you are not situated in a situation where those things prevail. If you are in space, which is supposed to be infinite, and you are thrown out there and spun around until you don't know which direction your head and feet are in, there is no up or down. Now you may say that up is where your head is pointed, but if somebody is next to you and their head is pointing to the place where your feet are, what happens? How can there be two ups? Their up will be in a different direction. And in fact, on this earth, if one of us is up near the North Pole and we point towards the sky and say, that's up, and one's on the South Pole, and we point towards the sky and say that's up. We're pointing in two different directions. How is that? That both of these things are up when you're two different directions. You see what I mean? I'm just not trying to just fool around, but I'm trying to show us how that these opposites do not exist. They only exist in a context. When we realize that the context is not all there is, we break free of it. But many people who are still trapped in the context hear something that is clever, read a book on pop psychology or spirituality, they'll grab on to some quick saying or some wisdom saying or something, not fully understanding it, and then they'll repeat it over and over again. And in our culture, if they do it with a lot of power, with a lot of zeal, if they do it with a lot of charisma, and they do enough of these little sayings, they're lifted up as a great spiritual teacher, lauded, given resources, and allowed to lead millions of people in spirituality. That is flawed. Because the real stuff is very hard. The real stuff is frightening sometimes. The real stuff leads us to a place where we feel alone for quite some time. But then worse than that, we feel the presence of what we have always perceived all of our lives as the divine. And when we feel that presence, when we come face to face with it, we realize that that is not the divine. It is a projection of who we are. And this archetype, this symbol, this god, this goddess will usually tell us just that. This archetype will tell us that the great understanding one, that which is infinite, is far beyond our understanding. And these little archetypes that we look at and pray to, some people fall down and worship, are a mixture between the projections of our own mind and the greater universe. They are symbols and images we use to understand that which is greater than we could understand otherwise, because the human brain cannot fathom infinity. So all these little steps towards divinity is fine, but ultimately, if we want to be free, we have to take that last step. And that last step only comes when we begin to experience that connection. And when we begin to be the ones who are making the wise statements instead of repeating the wise statements. When we become like a well in the desert, bubbling up into everlasting life. But this becoming like a well means daring to push forward into the unknown, standing in the doorway without flinching, going forward. This going forward can involve going into one's own heart, one's thoughts, one's ideas, one's memories in the subconscious that one cannot even tap into normally. Going into those horribly painful moments that we can't even remember. And when we go into those moments that are so horrible and painful that we can't remember them, we have to relive them. Sometimes this can be done as we meditate, and we can feel this horrible feeling, this feeling of fear. If we keep going forward, we begin to tap into that part of ourselves that was influenced before we had words, or before we had images. the terror, the trauma, the hurt that we experienced. And that can be very troubling if we don't put our faith in the divine, if we don't realize who we are, if we don't realize that those thoughts, those feelings, those memories are not who we are. They are separate from us. And then we go even farther. Many people may not even be able to hear this at this moment. But we go farther in realizing that all of that pain and that suffering and all of that hurt are simply building blocks to build the people that we are. Sometimes they are there to give us empathy. Sometimes they are there to give us humility. Sometimes they are there to give us strength, the strength that we need to go on in this world. But they are not there as enemies. They are like patches in a quilt, all sewn together to create this mask, this persona that we project into the world as we interact with the world. And without all of those pieces, we would be a different person. And so we take this persona, we go into the world knowing that we are not this persona, but we are the awareness, the love and compassion behind the persona that pulled together all of these experiences. The joys, the happiness, the pains and sorrows, and we wove them together into a beautiful mask that we wear when we interact with people. But we are not the masks. We are the weavers. We are the planners. And as soon as we realize this and hold on to this, the illusion, the false part of the world, falls apart, and we perceive reality as it is. As the Hindus say, Maya, or illusion, and our struggles in that illusion become Leela, the magical dance, as we dance with reality, choosing where we want to be, how we will react, and how we can convey this understanding to others. We realize that we are divinity itself that can never be destroyed and has never been created. And we move in and live in and breathe in that reality as divine beings, slipping into the persona like a person stepping in and out of a door. And each time we meditate or contemplate or reach a state of high awareness, a state of bliss, we are stepping out of the door of the ego. And when we need to decide what to do to work in this world, we are stepping back in and using it as the tool that we created it to be. We created it to be a library of instructions on how to live in this four-dimensional world. That's all that it is, like a computer program. The computer program, as we all know, is not the programmer. We are the programmer. And so nowadays there are arguments, people trying to keep us in these boxes every time we start to grow and we start to step out. The system, the machine, tries to make us into a cog that can plug right back in. This whole argument with the crazy things like where woke comes to die and wokeism and all of this thing is all about trying to keep a person asleep. Woke is just the first step, you know. Woke is realizing what's going on outside of oneself, realizing the dangers, realizing the manipulation from the system, the education system, religious system, all of these systems in order to keep us in a box, in order to suppress us, oppress us, steal the resources from us and give it to those who have plenty. That is woke on the first level. Woke on the second level is realizing that they have planted so much of this way of thinking, of manipulating, of being trapped in a cage, in a false identity inside of us, that we too are contributing to the hurt and the pain and suffering of others, and realizing that if we come into a place of power, when we are wounded in carrying this hatred, we will reproduce the exact same thing, and perhaps at a higher level. Woke to the third power, the last woke, is realizing that we are greater than the sum of our understanding. We are greater than the sum of our material goods. We are greater than they say that we are. Every religion, every educational institution, every philosophy falls short, nowadays anyway, when it doesn't explain fully who and what we are. For we are that which we have been seeking. The divine power, the divine energy, God, Goddess, Creator, creation. We are all of that wrapped in this space, moving through time and space for this time. And when we are done, like the old story about Gideon fighting against the army, they were told to take torches and put them in these big clay jars and carry them with them into the enemy's camp in the dark. And when they got there and stationed themselves, they lifted the glasses and they slammed them down into the ground and broke them open and picked up the torches and shouted, and all of their enemies, who were a conglomerate of all different nations, woke up and thought they were betrayed and started killing each other. We are in a clay vessel, the human body. In fact, we are referred to as the worship of ages in clay vessels. And at the end of our time, we will shatter this clay vessel and return to being the light of truth, of awareness, and love. That is who we are. And we can be that right now, inside the clay vessel. Namaste, folks. Thanks for being with us. If you want to learn more about us, you can find the description with links in it that tells you a little bit about what we're doing. I hope that you will have a great day, great week, and will realize that there is nothing more beautiful than your thoughts.